Welcome to the Down South Hunting Podcast. This is episode 4, and this is our first mini episode. On this episode, we have Dr. Bronson Strickland from the Mississippi State Deer Lab. Dr. Strickland, it's a pleasure to have you on. My question today is, talk to me about the best time to start prep work on food plots in order not to disturb turkey nests and any fawns that may be on the ground. In relation to bush hogging and not disturbing those nests and those new fawns.
Okay, Adam, I'm going to give you a response that's probably a little bit different than what you were expecting. But let me, I'm a nerdy wildlife biologist. Let me qualify a few things. Are you talking about, so you're talking about preparing for a warm season or a summer food plot as opposed to a fall or a cool season food plot? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. The way I would approach that is I would have started a long time ago. I would have begun with using my best friend is not the bush hog, but it's a sprayer. So that area that I wanted to make a warm season plot, I would have already sprayed that with glyphosate or some type of generic form of glyphosate, which is like Roundup, general herbicide that's going to kill everything. And then what you can do, the best, I'm going to give you, the best things you can do, and then you can back up and maybe some things you can't do, is to kill everything with an herbicide and then burn it off. Now, if, it all depends on when you started. So if you started spraying, which you're always going to need 2 to 3 weeks for the herbicide to really effectively kill everything. And that is going to make your job getting seed in the ground so much easier. It's going to make bush hogging easier, and it's even going to make disking a lot easier. And then if you stay on top of this and you spray at the right time, you're probably going to even possibly eliminate the need for the bush hog altogether. And so you may be creating a food plot scenario when you sprayed early enough where that field won't even be an attractive place for a hen to want to nest.
Interesting. So you said we're kind of behind the 8 ball. About what date would you normally start spraying?
It depends on, when you want to put the crop in the ground. So generally most people are thinking May, but you can certainly go on into June before you do that. If you're going to do soybeans, cowpeas, lab, deer vetch, etc., your really common warm season stuff, you can do that all the way into June. And now if you're a producer, a farmer, you're making your living off of it, you're more than likely going to get your beans in the ground by May. But June is fine. And if you did a good job with your cool season food plots and you had particular varieties of clover in those food plots, even though your cereal grains are done, your wheat, your rye, your oats, they're basically done in terms of palatability and they're dead. But a lot of those clovers are still growing very well. So you can still bridge the gap very well in April and May and even into the beginning of June, just with those clovers. And then you could plant your warm season food plot, starting at the end of May or beginning of June. But let me circle back around, Adam, if you're just going to no prep work whatsoever, you're not going to do any type of soil amendments or anything, I'm just going to go out and bush hog, it's really going to depend on your area. And so if we were in southern Mississippi, it may be earlier than northern Mississippi, which may be earlier than where you're at, in Tennessee. That's where, one of the best resources you can have for anybody, wherever you're at in the Southeast or East or in the U.S., is your state wildlife agency. So there is going to be a wildlife biologist in your area that's going to know when that nesting is going to be and probably when you're safe. But my strategy, Adam, would be I'm just probably going to try to avoid that altogether. Just avoid the mower altogether. Somebody, if y'all come to the QDMA convention, you'll meet Craig Harper, and he's one of my big buddies, and he's a huge habitat guy. And that's one thing he preaches all the time is get rid of your mower.
Mm.
Your management, your habitat management and food plot, it needs to be a sprayer and a disc. And in your woods, it needs to be a sprayer and prescribed fire. Get rid of the mower. So you can do the mowing, and it certainly does help. But I know from personal experience when if you go, and most of the time this is really important in the fall, if you are just the person, and I used to be there too, so I'm not trying to sound holier than thou here, but you go away from the lease, turkey season's over, you come back whenever, August, September, whenever your season is, and you want to get your food plots in the ground before season starts. And you start with a bush hog, and then you try to disc it. When you bush hogged it, all you did, of course, was you did remove a lot of that above ground biomass. But when you run a disc over it, it can be hard as hell to get the soil turned over because you cut the lawn, you mowed the lawn, so to speak. But when you run that disc over it, those roots are still alive and well. And so you end up spending so much time disking and disking and disking. And sometimes it's about impossible to disc, depending on what kind of grasses you had in that field. So you can spend so much less time getting out before you want to plant, about 3 weeks before you want to plant, putting a sprayer on the back of a four-wheeler and killing it all with glyphosate, because it kills the above ground and the below ground, and you can run that disc over it and you can do it in half the time.
Dr. Strickland, thank you for that answer. I look forward to continuing this discussion. Listeners, if you enjoyed this, you're really going to enjoy next week's episode with Dr. Strickland. Please stay tuned. And on a last note, if you will go and leave us a review and subscribe on iTunes, we would greatly appreciate it. 2 random winners will be chosen after we hit 20 reviews, and I will send out 2 bags of Grizzly Bean coffee for those winners. So if you win, get you a free bag of Grizzly Bean coffee. While you're looking for your hunting gear and trying to buy new hunting gear this year, please go check out huntinggeardeals.com. See you next week.